What's up, Staunch Gang? Very happy to have you guys back with me. Now, I'm talking about something a little different tonight. And if you've been watching the channel years ago, I kind of touched on this stuff, but, I thought it'd be fun to bring back up and try to bring it all in one video. That all being said, tonight I would like to talk to you guys about some obscure, some strange, some just flat out weird Quentin Tarantino universe connections. Now, if you know anything about Quentin Tarantino movies, you know he has his own universe, his own broad universe, and it's kind of split off in two. I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but you have like the mainline universe, and then you have the movie universe of films from Tarantino that this universe watches. So like these guys will go and watch this movie. You'll get the guys from Reservoir Dogs going to watch something like Jackie Brown, you know what I mean? And they would recognize Pam Grier and all that. So it goes way deeper than you might think. And now this chain is kind of broken later in Natural Born Killers, being, that they mentioned Scagnetti there, and in Reservoir Dogs, there's also a Scagnetti. And so these things kind of get intertwined, but hey, who cares, right? But to knock out some kind of more well-known Tarantino connections here, I guess the most well-known one would be Romy and Michele's high school reunion. And that's basically because you got Miramax, Dimension, Touchstone, it's all under the same umbrella, hence they hire some of the same people and they got the same set designer here. So it was just kind of like a fun little shout out to Tarantino. Now, the Romy and Michele connection being that there is a blatant Red Apple cigarette ad whenever they get their car and they're headed out on their big adventure. Well, you look in the background, you see a Red Apple display, which is pretty sweet. Now, Red Apple is the fictional cigarette brand that Quentin Tarantino made up. Of course, Kevin Smith has his own as well, Nails. But Tarantino, this brand appears in nearly all of his films. I mean, even stuff like Hateful Eight, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. They even pop up in Four Rooms. So the Red Apple connection, that's always a fun one. And another one here in Romy and Michele is that whenever they're snacking out, whenever they feel defeated and they binge on food and junk food, well, if you look closely, there is a big kahuna bag in the background. Pretty cool. And with the sequel being greenlit recently, like they are officially doing a sequel to Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, I can only hope that they're smoking some red apples or something in that. If Romeo and Michele is part of this universe, well then so is that film's prequel, Romeo and Michele, The Beginning, which actually exists. I reviewed it. Check it out next. Fairly well-known one, although it is kind of, I never really hear anyone talk about it, is The Great White Hype, where of course we get Sam Jackson. He's playing the Sultan, this like janky, kind of sleazy boxing promoter. And then in the finale of the film, I mean, when he's going to sit down, who does he run into?
Vincent, how you doing, baby? You seen Jules? How's everything? Huh?
Yeah, that's pretty funny, man. Like, they just threw this fake John Travolta in there, but it's funny that, the Sultan asks about Jules. That's another pretty strange connection there. I'm guessing Sam Jackson just kind of, asked Tarantino, hey, throw me a bone. Let me throw this little connection and this little cameo, this little reference, this little Easter egg. Let me put it in this movie, The Great White Hype, which I also reviewed. You can check that out next. Now, there's a few more little, scattered connections, I guess, but those are the big ones, put it that way. But when it comes to the obscure stuff, well, the first and quite possibly my favorite came in 1996's Curdled, a film with humble beginnings.
Tonight, we profiled the reign of terror of Miami's blue blood killer.
Quentin Tarantino's Rolling Thunder Pictures presents William Baldwin.
Why don't you show me what you know?
The first time was here.
Yes, Cameron.
In Curdled.
This movie, Curdled, man, is such a good flick. I highly recommend you watch it. If you see right up there, it's part of Quentin Tarantino's Rolling Thunder Pictures. Now, this is something he did in the 90s. Mid-90s, late 90s, whatever. And he did it as part of it was like a boutique label, if you will. Quentin Tarantino's name was on there, but they were all just like old exploitation, blaxploitation movies, some overseas stuff. We got films like Switchblade Sisters. Let's see, Detroit 9000 was part of that. Chungking Express. And, with the exception of Curdled, though they were all just re-released movies. Curdled is a little special, though. Curdled started out as just like a short film that Tarantino saw during a run of bad movies in a film festival, and there's a pretty funny story out there. He's just talking about it like, yeah, it was just bad movie after bad movie after bad movie, and then suddenly this little movie called Curdled came up, and he couldn't take his eyes off the screen, and he definitely couldn't take his eyes off the film's lead, Angela Jones, who he later cast in Pulp Fiction. So it was like a weird thing. Tarantino just fell in love with this short film, put it that way. He decided to produce a feature-length version whenever he was doing this Rolling Thunders thing, which is pretty damn sweet. Now, if you get your hands on these tapes or these DVDs that they later released, each one of them has a pretty sweet intro from Tarantino. I really miss stuff like this. Along with Angela Jones, we also get the second best Baldwin brother, William Baldwin. Of course, Steven's the best, but 1996's Curdled tells the tale of a Los Angeles serial killer named the Blue Blood Killer and the true crime aficionado who is obsessed with him. So, this chick, she eventually lands a job on a crime scene cleanup crew to get closer to the case. And that's when she finds herself getting a little too close to the Blue Blood Killer in this sexy crime thriller. And much like Natural Born Killers, you remember how that movie had that fictional TV show, American Maniacs, hosted by Wayne Gale? Well, here we get a similar Hollywood-based show where we get a little update on some old friends.
Here on Miami DOA, it's been our responsibility to do profiles on many of our nation's most notorious criminals, mass murderers, and serial killers of the past, recent past, and right this minute. Richard Speck, killer of 8 nurses in one night. Julio Gonzalez, armed with $1 worth of gasoline and 2 matches, killed 87 people. We went to Texas to bring you the up-to-the-minute story of Seth and Richard Gecko, the bank-robbing brothers who killed, kidnapped, and raped their way across Missouri and Texas, only to vanish seemingly into thin air.
That's pretty damn cool. I highly recommend Curdled. I remember watching this for the first time, renting it at the video store, and just my mind was blown. You know, it adds so much to the Tarantino universe with that one little snippet. And again, Curdled is probably a movie that, you know, the main characters from the main Tarantino universe would watch on their day off or something, you know, like Lance from Pulp Fiction would be sitting there, you know, smoking some weed, eating cereal, watching Curdled and be like, hey, it's those guys. The next strange connection comes from a familiar place, the 90s indie film scene. A scene that gave us not only Quentin Tarantino, but other greats like Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, Jim Jarmusch, Tom DiCillo, and of course, Richard Linklater. Linklater would, of course, hit big with films like Slacker, Before Sunset, and obviously Dazed and Confused. But it was when he decided to return to smaller scale stuff after doing a big budget production like that. Linklater decided to go indie again with his film Suburbia, also released in 1996.
Nothing ever changes, man. 50 years from now, we're all gonna be dead. And there'll be new people standing here, drinking beer, eating pizza, bitching and moaning about the price of Oreos, and they won't even know we were ever here.
Yo, you're getting me all upset here.
Nihilistic youth kind of wandering through life and hanging out next to a Circle A convenience store with basically nowhere to go. And we basically see how they all cope with it when an old acquaintance returns for the night. And, you know, that's saying the very least plot-wise. You got to see this flick if you haven't. The most nihilistic of the bunch is the military vet Tim, played fantastically by indie staple Nicky Katt. Throughout the film, the group kind of antagonizes, if you will, the Circle A's store owner. They put this guy through hell. I mean, they drink outside of the guy's store every day. I get why he's pissed. But Tim has a certain disdain for this guy. You know, he throws racist rants at him, demoralizing him whenever he can, all up until the film's finale when they wind up in a standoff. Basically, Tim hates this guy so much. They seem to just never find any common ground and couldn't be any more different. Fast forward all the way to Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof, where we see the gals stop off at a Circle A's store and get coaxed into buying an issue of Italian Vogue by a very familiar face. And if you look close enough, his name tag does indeed say Tim. So after all that shit that went down in Suburbia, Tim would wind up working at a Circle A convenience store anyways, likely owned by his former rival. I really wonder what happened there. Quentin, I know you're watching. Let me know down in the comments. definitely check out Curdled and Suburbia if you have not seen them yet. I could talk a little more about Quentin Tarantino connections and whatnot, and if you guys want to see it, let me know. I will do that. But first, you guys please like and comment and subscribe. Make sure you're hitting that little notification bell. If you're a new viewer, what's up? Also, subscribe, leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. I like knowing where you're from, how far these videos reach and whatnot. So if you are a Quentin Tarantino fan and want to hear more of this stuff, let me know down below.